All right, so what we want to do is actually be able to test this class right here, so payment service, right? And basically have no real implementation for the interaction that we will implement in a second with Stripe, right? So this is when you have to use interfaces, right? So this is the power of having interfaces, right? Because I can simply pass or actually inject the interface and then simply mock the invocations of that interface, right? Because remember, this logic right here with Stripe, right? And we should also have, so let's have this around Stripe, right? So just like that, and the same for Twilio. There we go. So remember, when we test things, right, we have to test them in isolation, right? Isolation. We test isolation. So we don't have the entire logic of Stripe inside of payment and test it in both places, right? The same way we've done with customer, by simply mocking the repository. It's the exact same process. So what we're going to do is actually mock this interaction right here inside of our payment, right? And the easiest way for us to do it is by simply passing an interface. So let me show you what I mean, right? So let's go ahead and inside of payment, let's go ahead and simply create a class, and this will be card and then payment and then charger. There we go. And this will be an interface. So now inside of this interface, what we're going to do is return a card, payment, and then charge, right? And here what we're going to do is simply say charge and then card. So this will be the method. So charge card. And we need a few things here. So we need a big decimal. So this is the amount. And we need the actual currency. So string and then current, or actually not strings. So we already have the currency, right? So currency and then currency. And right here, let's simply have the source. So this will be the card source, right? Card and then source. So this is the actual card being debited. And last but not least, let's also include a description. So string and then description. There we go. So now if I delete that line and this with semicolon. Now let's go ahead and simply create this class, right? So there we go. So this is a class that represents a charge, right? So once we charge the customer. So here, let's simply say private final is, and then card debited. And this will be a boolean. So boolean, just like that. And this with semicolon. For now, let's simply have this boolean right here, right? And you'll see how this will come along in a second. So let's have the getter. And let's also have the toString, right? There we go. So basically, this is the response, right? The response for any class that wishes to implement this interface right here, right? So they have to return whether the card was debited or not, right? And probably this should be was card debited or is card debited. I'll leave up to you to decide which name is better. But for now, let's simply keep it as is card debited. And now what we can do is simply go to our payment service. And now we can simply say private final and then payment, or actually card payment charger. And there we go. And now we can add this to constructor as well. And now we have the ability to charge a card, right? So even though we don't have an implementation for this, right, we can still test our logic, right? Because we can simply mock the response of this method right here called charge card, right? And when we implement the actual, and when we create the class that implements this interface, we will test it in isolation. So if you have any questions on this interface, please do let me know, but you'll see how everything will come along in a second. So for now, catch me on the next one.